Hi there. Before you jump into this episode, we want to make sure our listeners know about the How Do You Drew Patreon page, where we release exclusive content for our members.
We've shared unedited video versions of podcast episodes, rare Drew Barrymore photos from our digital archives, movie commentaries, and so much more.
We're currently working through a deep dive of each chapter of Little Girl Lost, which, if you don't know, is Drew's out-of-print autobiography released when she was only a teenager. And it's been really good stuff, you guys.
There's already plenty of content to dig into and lots more to come. So join now for as little as $1 a month and support us at How Do You Drew.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/howdoyoudrew to join today. Thank you.
Enjoy the episode.
All right. Hello, and welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewseum.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley. And happy anniversary, Pardsy.
Happy anniversary. Happy Drewversary.
Happy Drew year anniversary.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, it is the 2-year anniversary of our podcast is this week, or it was like a couple days after this will air. Anyway, 2 years since we came out. What the heck?
2 years since we recorded an episode like in each of our closets for the first time.
Yeah.
Which it's funny because I recorded it in Maine before I moved to Maine.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Isn't that a trip?
That's a trip. I was pregnant. Now I have a little 1.5-year-old almost. I mean, life has happened.
We've come so far.
We have. Yet here I am with my mic not working and I'm recording on my phone. So how far have we really come?
Nobody would have ever known if you hadn't brought it up, but let's be real here.
I have to call it out. We can't act like we're super pro all the time.
Yeah, even though we are.
We obviously. But I do want to go over some of the fun things that happened in the past year. We're not going to dedicate an entire episode to our podcast anniversary this time around because, you know, that's a little indulgent. But let's indulge
just
for
a
minute. So we got our Patreon and our newsletter off the ground in this past year.
Woohoo!
We got to guest star on Movies That Made Us Gay, covering Charlie's Angels. If somehow you missed that episode over there, go check it out. So much fun.
Pete and Scott, we love you.
We love you guys. And we also had some amazing guests on our show. Oh my God.
So first of all, James Duval. Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy. We love you, Jimmy.
Yes. We also had Tony Crago for the second time. Yay, Tony. We also love Tony.
Tony the Tiger.
Yeah. We had Matthew Kilgore, Drew's Taylor from the Drew Barrymore Show. That was so fun, like unexpectedly
incredible.
So fun.
So sweet and so giving with his time. We don't have a little nickname for him, but maybe we'll come up with one.
Yeah, maybe so. Who else did we have?
So in turn, we also had Movies That Made Us Gay on our podcast, which I can't believe that was in the past year. Feels like so long ago, but we did the Amy Fisher story with them. Absolutely loved that.
Yep.
And then we also had Lindsay Blake of I Am Not a Stalker, good friend of ours. And then 3 super, super old school Drewbie friends from our Grapevine days, Anita, Tess, and Brian. And then I just realized we also had Jolena on in the past year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I think I thought that was the year before, but it was in the past year of the pod.
Geez. Cool. Thank you all if you're listening right now and you were on our pod, you're awesome.
And if you're someone we want to have on the pod, but you haven't decided to do it yet, why don't you give it a thought? We have a big wish list and we'd be happy to have you come on. You know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are. We know you're listening intently. Drew. Hi, Drew.
Hi, Drew. Welcome. All right. Should we talk about what our favorite episode of our second year of the podcast was? Because we picked the same one.
So, yeah, how could we not pick the Hollywood Hills Home episode 69? Nice. Uh,
That was the only reason I picked it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, runner-ups for me, like we talked about some great episodes, like the Donnie Darko episode and the companion episode when we had Jimmy. Like that, when I saw that was in this year, I was like, oh crap. But the Hollywood Hills episode, speaking of Lindsay Blake, our friend, she really helped us make that like really great and really fun. We have a video version of that episode on YouTube that is fun as well because we made like a slideshow and had video and audio. Like we had a lot of fun with that one.
I feel like that one for me, the research was the most like exciting in a way because a lot of the Drew research I do is just like refreshers of stuff I already know for the most part. I obviously come across new info a lot, but with the house, it was like we were digging into the history of something bigger than that.
True.
And it was just, there were so many layers and so many cool things that Lindsay found.
But then I just realized like one of the craziest things that came out of that. Like, I think you're probably going to mention that, but the fact that we realized that, there was a book published with pictures of Drew's home, and there were how many of our framed pieces that we had given her on the wall? Like 3 or more?
3. Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I still can't believe that.
And I had to block it out, I guess, because it was so unbelievable for us to find that out. Yeah, so that was really special. How much longer would it have been until we had known that things we had given her were featured in a book?
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
It took us finding out by doing the research. Did Lindsay find it?
I think her former boss found out about the book. And then when I started looking into the book, I was like, holy crap, that is our gifts. Our gifts are up on the wall. Just amazing. Yeah, I definitely remember sending some very exciting text messages
to me. Yeah, probably a lot of like, I'm dead. Look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really special. But we've had some really great episodes this year. I see that you made some notes about the statistics of what were the most listened to episodes. So this is fascinating to me.
Yeah. I'm a nerd for analytics.
No, but I'm kind of surprised.
Well, okay. This is kind of the annoying thing is that Spotify, that's where we host our podcast, if you didn't know. And for whatever reason, they don't take into account YouTube views, which we started streaming our podcast onto YouTube a couple months ago because Google Podcasts like went away. And so now our feed like automatically puts the episodes on YouTube, which is great. And some of those, I mean, I think it has to do with the algorithm of YouTube more than anything else, but some of those have like lots of watches and some of them have 1.
Oh, that's so weird.
It's kind of a crapshoot. It's very weird.
And these are just like not even like a video version of the podcast. It's like literally just the audio. So should we go through some of these?
Yeah. So if we're just going on Spotify alone, which doesn't, okay, so let me rephrase that. So if we're just going on all platforms besides YouTube, because for whatever reason, they're their own thing.
Yeah.
The third most popular episode was our one on collecting on Drew, episode 55, which I find very surprising.
I love that. I want to re-listen because, I mean, I'm sure that was like, I think I went through that episode like barely having to think because that is such a topic that is like it's just us. It's like literally about us and our activities. So I don't remember it, but it's cool.
It is. I feel like I kind of remember feeling like we barely scratched the surface. Like we could have talked for so much longer, but like, we're like, okay, that was a summary of what it's like, but I'm surprised so many people have an interest in that. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Our second most popular is the motherhood episode. So that's about Drew's journey as a mom. And that's episode 54. And that one makes sense to me. I think that was a special one.
I'm glad that's up there for sure.
Yeah, me too. And then our most popular is the biography episode, which actually is the first episode of our year 2.
Oh,
it's episode 50. But I think that one might be, well, number one, it like covers Drew's entire life. So awesome. Right. And then that's like our featured episode on Spotify. Like, this is the best place to start. Like, I chose it.
Oh, okay.
And yes, I just said the best place to start.
If you don't know, that's the documentary that Drew did about voting. By the way, vote this year, please.
Yes. Hey, I love it.
If you're in the United States, let's just be real. Please vote.
And vote with the brain.
Vote with a brain. I don't even know if we need to say anything else. I guess we are. But yes, best place to start. So you marked it on Spotify as like, this is the episode that's like a good primary.
Yeah, if you want to dig into our podcast, here's a good one to start with. And like it introduces you to Drew's entire life if you don't know about her. So I feel like if you listen to that and then you're like, I want to know more about this girl, then you go into our nitty gritty.
Yep. That's awesome. Okay, so tell me about the YouTube stats and how they vary. I mean, because it's random.
It's wild. Yeah. So if you include all other platforms plus YouTube, which I guess is like the appropriate way to be doing this, our movie line March 1992, which was episode 81, is the third most popular, which I love that episode. And that was one of my favorites to get into. And I totally get why that's popular.
That's the one we had like juicy gossip, right?
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second.
I love how the YouTube thing almost doubles.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah. You see my numbers here?
Yeah.
I was having a lot of fun. And then the Amy Fisher story episode with Movies That Made Us Gay, as we mentioned, episode 63, that has a ton of views or listens. Nice. I don't even know what you call it.
On YouTube, yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, last week's episode, 85, has so many YouTube listens that it's become like one of our single most popular episode of the past year.
What? That's interesting. Yeah. I think you might have said something about the fact that like this one's getting a lot of listens on YouTube, like even when we first released it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's strange. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so
that's that.
I love the stats. I love the stats because it's kind of cool to think that like we're just throwing it out there. You know, we're just doing this. I know. Like there is a little bit of a rhyme or reason to the choices of topics, but it's like kind of instinct.
And sometimes I'm like, oh, this is going to be such a popular one. And it isn't. And other times I'm like, whoa.
Like the pets one.
Yeah, we're never going to let that go.
No, we're not. We're not.
But anyway, I could go on and on about these like strange things, but like you just throw it out there and see what happens. And sometimes YouTube says, hey, we're going to shove this one in a lot of people's faces.
Yeah. Sometimes you throw the shit at the wall and sometimes it sticks. Sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
It just falls down and it's still beautiful on the ground. It's just all this work we do. Okay. So I like that you pulled this too. So what are our most watched clips on our like social media?
Okay. Just that we've uploaded in the last year.
Okay. Yes.
So on TikTok, the most popular one is the one about Drew smoking in the movie theater at age 11.
Of course. I don't remember what the visual was for that.
It's a lot of like pictures of her, like the same stuff we'd use for our Little Girl Lost episodes on Patreon, where she's like partying as a child.
Okay.
And then on Instagram and YouTube, by far and away, of course, it's that blind item gossip, 16-year-old Drew on jealousy, talking about the actress she hates, and people just lost their minds over that one.
Yeah, that we got so much feedback on that. That was really funny.
Yeah, so many people making guesses.
Yeah, but we kind of knew, like, putting it out there, like, this is fun. Let's just like see what people say.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what timelines are. So they're like, here's an actress that was popular in 1999. It must be her.
Like, Reese Witherspoon. Like, I think there was somebody's like, no.
Yeah. Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie, like lots of people who were not
like, no,
famous in 1991.
Anyway, if you don't know what we're talking about, go both listen to our Movie Line 1992 episode, but also check out that thing on our Instagram.
That thing.
You know that thing. And this is the part of the episode where I get to indulge in all the things I edited out of our podcast. And Ashley doesn't even get a preview of it until it's edited in. So
it'll be exciting.
I hope you enjoy.
I can't wait. Mila loved those last year. She's like been looking forward to this all year.
That's awesome. Because she wants to like make fun of you and how you stutter over your words. And we both do. It's like, I mean, of course, they're all us like saying the wrong word or,
or getting frustrated with mics or whatever. Yeah. exclusive quote. Gucci's no exclusive quotes for you. I got rid of that kid.
I'm gonna get rid of this. So now for our Druseum of the week. What did you pull?
Our Druseum of the week?
Damn it. I always do that.
Same.
Burp, burp, beer.
That's like the NBC thing at the beginning. Yeah, like our program is about to begin.
I'm doing NBC and then Star Wars.
Playboy was a thing back then?
It was way older than this. She thinks this is from the olden days. I mean, it is almost 30
it
years
is
old.
kind of, yeah. I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley.
Was that a little crunchy?
Yeah, I'm Anne.
I'm Anne. Wait, that was weird too.
I'm the old witch.
I'm Anne. Zoom, you're so amazing and so stupid at the same time. She also described as playing Julia as a breath fresh of air, like which is
Try again. You said breath fresh of air.
P of stream.
Exactly what I was thinking. Okay, so let's talk about the production of the movie. You know, we guys over here with Think Karachi.
Jesus. Zoom, you suck. You suck. Really cute striped shredder. Shredder? No, not shredder. Really cute striped sweater with like blues and reds and yellows.
Even though it was the following year that we were at Flower Films hanging out with. Hey, I don't know what you're doing.
Really weird. Like we've gotten so good at doing. Sorry, I have cat hair in my mouth. Okay, do you want to tell me something about what Drew proclaimed her love? Proclaimed?
Proclaimy.
Tell me what Drew proclaimed her love for this week.
One day we'll get this down.
Yeah, it's not today. Today's not the day. Today is not the day.
The barefoot with the barefoot with the duffel bag on the.
If you've ever met a person, blah, blah. If you've ever met a person.
Ivy was the kind of girl who in reality
sorry. I lost my place. You know. All that.
Business lady.
Excuse me.
Hey, Droobies. We are here to tell you about our website hosts, Positive Medium, and they sponsor the podcast. We've been clients of theirs for over 10 years, and we use them for all our website needs on thedruseum.com.
Their services include customized web design, professional coding, search engine optimization and marketing, plus hosting, which has been huge for us for many years.
Plus, their incredible customer service has been one of our favorite features. They've literally saved our site quite a few times, and they always help with minor troubleshooting in a matter of minutes. So whether that's coding issues or back-end questions, etc., we reach out, we get help immediately, which is just invaluable.
Lucky you. To our listeners, Positive Medium is offering 25% off any managed WordPress hosting plan using our promo code DREW. That's DREW. Visit our friends over at positivemedium.com. Thank you. All right, so, oh my God, what did we just talk about that appeared on YouTube?
This is crazy. So, of course, I mean, this is a corrections in some way, because I was like, oh, no way is the MTV movie special from 1999 on YouTube. It's MTV. They don't share anything.
Yeah.
And then the wonderful Drew Barrymore Daisies contacted us and said, oh my gosh, you guys, actually, this was uploaded. I think it was a couple months ago by somebody random. It's not by MTV, so it's not official. So it's going to be gone. I guarantee it. I can't believe it's still there. You guys haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a long time, it is so, so lovely. Some of the best little sweet little nuggets of wisdom out of Drew's mouth. She's just like a true sweetheart in it. It's so worth watching. So we will link to it.
And it's really well done.
Yeah, very.
I haven't watched the whole thing over. It's been a long time since I've seen the whole thing, but I just watched like just the like about her life, and I was like, okay, accurate. Like it felt like it was well done. And the whole thing's only like, it's less than 30 minutes. So it's like a concise, and I just saw like part of it already. I was like feeling the nostalgia.
It's majorly full of that feeling.
Even the way she's like shot in it is very like, she's like sun, like there's something about the lighting that feels very like, I don't know, like it's a dream or something.
She's like glowing as always, but like very glowing. Yeah. Surrounded by flowers. Yeah. It's like a heavenly image.
It is. So yeah, if you haven't seen that, go watch it and I'll do the same. Okay. This was a fun coincidence.
Is it a coincidence? Cosmic coincidence. So also last episode, we talked about that journalist, Bobby Y. Gant, who has interviewed Drew many times at many press junkets, and how she has up all these videos. And you were talking about the one from 1995, Boys on the Side, where she comments on Drew's hair. And we were even laughing like, what's that hair? But the next day on Drew's Instagram,
it was really soon after. Yeah.
They posted Drew's response to that question, talking about her hair.
But this is suiting me just peachy right now because I think it goes along with my personality. Little weird.
It's so good.
It's so good. And I love, literally we were like talking around that.
We talked up to that point. Yeah, wild. So weird.
I love it. But yeah, another thing, if you haven't seen those Bobby Y. Gant's like posts on YouTube with her interviews, those are awesome.
Yeah, you know what? I'll link to her, like just her page. I'll search Drew, link to that, and you guys can check them out.
That's a good idea. Okay, this is so cool. So you found out that Greg Gorman photographed the Poison Ivy promotional photos.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So other than, I see that you made a note, he was the photographer of Movie Line 1992, and they were also friendly, right?
Yeah, she went to like a couple parties that were for him or for his books, and he did that LA Works ? Strange mystery picture.
That's right.
So it was just so weird because we'd just been talking about Movie Line 92, then we did Poison Ivy, and somehow we didn't know that he did the photos for both. So I just thought that was like a fun thing to point out.
Yeah, that is really cool. I love when we can just like make little connections.
Yes, we love little connections.
We love connections. I mean, we have like lists of like photographers and people that she's worked with over and over again. And I like, it's one thing where we haven't really like totally dove into that and utilized that in fun ways. Like it'd be fun to like, we've focused on certain photographers. Like, you know, we've done, what have we done? Mark Seliger?
No, we haven't. We just talk about him all the time, but we have a whole episode on Ellen von Unworth.
Okay, so we've only done Ellen von Unworth so far. But like there are a lot of people that she works with over and over again. And this is like, those were really close together in time, right? So like promo photos for Poison Ivy, what would be your guess? How much time between that and the Movie Line 1992?
A couple months.
Yeah,
maybe like 4 months at the most. So that's neat. That's a great reminder. I got to add that to our photographer spreadsheet. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so what did you pull for this week for the Druism of the Week?
You know, those cool little isms that we do.
It's a historical one, as we like once in a while, especially during summer break of the Drew Barrymore show.
Yep.
But this is from the aforementioned MTV movie special, and it's about her trying to come back when she was 16, come back in Hollywood and, you know, get back in the biz.
Yep. And I love this little bit.
I really was okay with the fact to like go and prove to people. As I jumped through the firing hoops and my body hairs were singed off, it felt good. You know, it's like, I really believe in working for what you get.
I always love that. The body hair singed off.
Yep.
Such a perfect Druism.
It really is.
Get that imagery.
You get the
firing
imagery.
hoops.
It's like slightly gross, you know?
Yep.
Classic Druism has a little bit of like a visceral, like ouch, or an ooh, or an ugh.
That's how we like it.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so kind comments corner.
Yeah, this is totally random that I came across this.
Okay.
So there's this nanny to the wealthy and elite, not my words, named Stephanie Kaiser, and she's like releasing a book about her experiences.
Okay.
And she said this about Drew.
Okay. So she said Drew Barrymore was, quote, by far the best, unquote, when picking up her daughters, Olive and Frankie, from school. Quote, she was an angel. I just remember so clearly one day walking in behind her to the school, and she was stopping to say hi and wave and hug every person that works there. Of course.
Oh, isn't that sweet? I thought we had to share it.
It's fun to have these ones that are like, it's like not just somebody's perception of what she is on TV. You know, because like people are like, she's such a light, she's such a this, she's such a good role model. Like we bring those up all the time. But this is like literally somebody witnessing her just being Drew out in the world.
Yeah, just in normal life. Yeah. Oh, that's a great point.
That's so cool. Yay, Drew. We just want to celebrate her. So
always. That's that's literally what we're here for, right? Well, sometimes we talk shit about her, but mostly celebrate.
How do you, Drew? What did you pull for this week in Drew history?
All right. So late August 2013. So it feels very recent, but that was 11 years ago. How creepy is that?
I was going to say like, oh, not that long ago. And I'm like, no.
All right. So Drew was on the cover of the humongous September issue of InStyle. I want to say this is the thickest magazine she's ever been on the cover of.
I feel like at some point we like checked how many pages the magazine was.
It's like 800 or
okay.
Yeah,
it's
bananas.
Yes.
But it was photographed by Michelangelo di Battista. Okay. And there were 3 different cover variants, which was cool. And then a over 10-page spread inside. So
very cool.
This is what was going on at the time she was on the cover. The September issue of any magazine is always like a big deal.
I was just going to ask. It's like it's like a fashion, right? It's like, like fall.
Yes.
Is it always, why is it the September fall issue that's so huge? Is there like a spring issue that's huge? I feel like it's always fall is a big deal.
That's a question for a more fashion forward person than me.
But yes, September issue is a big deal. And our Drew was on the cover. These are such cool pictures.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
The cover itself, I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's cute. But it's not the best part, obviously. There are just some really lovely, simple, but really lovely images of her face in this.
Yeah, there are some really good close-ups. And it's just kind of this like old-fashioned Hollywood house kind of vibe going on. I don't know. It's a special one.
Very classy.
Very. It was definitely in her like, I'm married to Will Koppelman and I'm a classy Chanel lady now.
Yes.
Definitely that era.
There are a couple black and whites that are really rad.
Yeah, definitely is like a character. It's not our everyday Drew.
No, it's not. In fact, like the surrounding just feels like she fits there. She can rock and roll in this, but
oh yeah.
Yeah, like these are so neat.
I know. Something real special with this one is that InStyle, I think they put out like the word on Twitter. If you have your issue, take a picture with it and maybe we'll feature you. So we both did that with our pictures and submitted it together from the Druseum. Yeah. And they posted it on their website, InStyle.com, which is really cool. And then they had our little caption, which was, Drew's positive outlook on life is very inspiring. She's a beauty who isn't afraid to play with and change up her look. We're fans of Drew for so many reasons. It's like very simple, but that's probably all the character limit would let us do.
Yep. Another fun thing that I hadn't remembered at all is that Drew did a Twitter question and answer session for InStyle on the 22nd of August to promote the issue. And we just wanted to go through them. So at the time, you must have gone and like taken screenshots and saved them?
Yeah. And you know what else I'm just remembering? I think she created her Twitter account for this. Like she didn't have one until this, if I'm recalling that correctly. Thank God we screenshotted them though, because they're really fun.
Yeah. So we're just going to go through some of the questions and the answers. One of the questions was, superhero films are huge lately. If given the chance, what heroine would you be? And her reply was Firestarter, Firestarter, Firestarter. Hashtag that was fun. I like that a lot.
Charlie McGee.
Yes.
The next question was, who is your style icon? Who inspires your fashion choices? And Drew replied, 100% David Bowie in every era, which she said many times.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
And then this next question is from her pal, Jimmy Fallon. And he said, can you finish this rhyme? Jamming with my boombox, walking 30 miles. And then she replied, eating greasy cheeseburgers with my friend, Harry Styles. What?
I know, it's so random, but I love it.
I have no idea what that's from, but I love that there was a question from Jimmy. That's really cute.
Oh my gosh. Okay, the next question was, what made you start your own makeup line, which is fabulous, by the way? And Drew said, I wanted to create high-end formulas at an affordable price because women deserve the best. At Flower Beauty.
And then someone asked, if you could give Olive one piece of advice to know growing up, what would it be? Love that question. And the response was, what I tell myself, when a woman smiles, she's the most beautiful. Hashtag laugh lines rule. Aw.
Oh, I missed that. The hashtag in my quick reread of this. That's so sweet. And we have, if you could work with any band on their music video, which is kind of funny. It's like she already did, but
Yeah.
who would it be? And she said, raucous songs to raucous images, Ellie Goulding. So that's fun.
Then someone asked, if you weren't an actress, what could you see yourself being instead? And her response was, ooh, ooh, I fantasize all the time about different lives. Today, a horse jockey, a pie maker, and a sommelier.
This is my favorite answer.
That is so
a
good.
Horse jockey. Oh,
Little True.
that is like straight up inside the actor studio on SNL. I think I'd want to be a horse jockey.
Be a horse jockey.
I wouldn't want to burn monkeys.
If you know, you know.
Okay, next one is, what's your beauty secret? I'm dying to know. And she said, Skincognito Stick Foundation from Flower Beauty, secret weapon that hashtag hides the bad. I remember you used that one a lot.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I'm not like a big makeup person, but it was a really, really good product. I think they completely stopped making it though, right? And
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
the next question was, I love Never Been Kissed. Still have those gaucho pants that you got on sale?
Love that person for asking that.
I love her answer. So glad you asked. I'm wearing them right now. Hashtag Josie Grossi loves you.
They're gotcha pants. I got them on sale.
So good.
So good. And then finally, In Style just said, you rock and you're welcome to come tweet with us anytime. And Drew said, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for your great questions. So just a really fun look back at like something really random for her to do, not something she does the type of thing very often, and some really fun stuff. Now we know she wants to be a horse jockey.
She did at least that day in 2013 because she said it changes all the time.
Good point.
But also that day, it was not just a horse jockey. It was also a sommelier and a pie maker.
A pie maker.
Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit about what's new with Drew.
Do you want to hit the headlines?
Okay, like I said, it's summer. Things are quiet. But we did find out that she, after spending some time in Australia, which we're going to get to the Wanderlust thing, but she spent some more time there, like with her daughters, just vacationing. And then they stopped in Singapore after Australia.
Cool.
And they went on an immersive food tour with this lady who runs a business called Everyday Tour Company. And she said, quote, over the course of a few days, the family explored several Singaporean sites. Some of her favorite activities included shopping for vintage and bohemian chic at Haji Lane and having her first henna tattoo in Little India.
Oh, cool.
Giving her down-to-earth attitude and ability to connect with people from all walks of life, the food tour at a local hawker market was also another highlight from her. And they have a couple pictures, which are so special.
That is really neat. So it was just on like a blog, you said?
Yeah, it was on like an Australian blog, interestingly enough.
Oh, that's really cool.
At first, I wasn't sure if this henna hands picture, like I was skimming the article and I was like, what is this picture? But then I noticed her Free City sweatpants and I was like, oh, that's Drew and her daughters.
Oh, I see.
The
on the
Free
left.
City. Yeah. The little one.
Oh, that's so cool.
And funnily, like I didn't find anything else about this anywhere. It was like this one spot. Even the Everyday Tour Company hasn't posted anything like on their accounts. So just was a lucky find.
So cool. I'm glad they shared. Lucky us.
Me too.
Okay, so the last thing we have to say before we jump into the weekly topic is that the Drew Barrymore Show starts filming season 5 in studio on September 4th.
Woo! Soon.
Wow. So that is right before that event in New York.
That's right. But yeah, they've like been asking for, I don't know if you've noticed on their Instagram on the Drew Barrymore Show, they're like, do you do this? Let us know if you want to be on the show. Those kinds of questions. So I was like, we're obviously gearing up. So I went and checked, and you can start getting tickets for in studio on September 4th. So yay, It's really soon. Our little quiet summer vacation is almost over.
Yes. So excited to see what Drew Loves we get to get into, in like a month, we're going to have new Drew Loves.
Yeah, I've definitely missed having those.
Okay, so our weekly topic for this week is kind of something different. This is pretty fun. We had a fun talk with our friend Tess, one of our oldest Drewbie friends, and she came and talked to us about the Wanderlust event that happened in Sydney.
Yes, Sydney.
So she gets into all the details about the show and shares with us how cool it was for her to see Drew again. And here we go. Welcome back, Tess. We are so happy to have you on again. Yay.
Oh, look, I'm honored to be invited back.
You're only I guess you're our second time guest. But still, that's special.
That really makes me feel special.
Sorry, I was going to say you're a first. Now you're a second now. But we're so happy you're here. We love seeing your face. We love chatting with you. And we're so excited that you're going to share your experience of seeing Drew doing this Wanderlust festival in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, for sure. It was, all I had to do was buy an event ticket to get to come on the podcast again. So no big deal.
You have to be in Drew's personal space and then you're allowed to come back.
Right. It's just, that's the barrier to entry.
And also you had to be friends with us for 20 years first. That's the other thing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've been saying that.
The primary thing happen already. Like that was just on lock. You had that on lock, thankfully. And then, so
got it.
Welcome back because you were in Drew's presence recently. The only reason we want to be your friend. Just kidding, Tess. We love you.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
And not only were you there, but another one of our longtime 20 plus year friends, Chrissy, accompanied you, which is so cool.
Yes. I know. It was really special. My dear friend Chrissy, who she now lives in Australia. She came over here to visit me that was probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think.
What a trip.
Literally.
And then, got married to one of my high school friends.
Oh,
and
I don't
stayed.
think I realized he was one of your high school friends. That is wild.
Yeah.
Well,
my God.
Well, and Ashley was once married to one of my high school friends.
That's true.
So this is a thing amongst Drewbie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Clearly, we have the best high school friends.
That is so funny. I knew that you were friends with him, but I didn't know he was like an old high school friend. That's so cool.
That's amazing. Look at Drew bringing people together.
I know. You can't help it.
Yeah. And Robert now uses they, them pronouns, just so you know.
Thank you for letting us know that. Thank you.
Yes.
We'll make sure we're respectful of that.
Yeah. So, so it was really cool that I got to hang out with Chrissy because I actually don't get to see her very often at all. We don't live that close to each other, even though we're in the same sort of broader city area. We're probably like an hour and a half drive away from each other. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it was really cool to see her and share this moment with Drew. And I had no idea what this event was going to be like. They had given so few details about it.
Totally. I know because I was trying to figure it out and I'm like, I don't understand what this is.
No, I had no idea. And, I'm not like very active on social media. So I also wasn't sort of digging a lot on there to try to figure it out. But when we got promotional emails or whatever from them about the tickets, they would just say, joining us on the couch is Drew. And then randomly got another email not long before the event going, there's all these other people joining her on the couch. And I was like, what?
I feel like they were calling it like an intimate event with Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, they were. And then it was like there's all these other people joining her on the couch. And I know you guys were talking about that a few episodes ago. They were all these Australian celebrities, basically. So I was just really confused. I had no idea what to expect. But as I was walking towards the event, there was all that signage everywhere. So I was taking some photos, and it was basically in it's in an area called Darling Harbour, which is just sort of adjacent to downtown Sydney. So very busy, especially on a Friday night, very buzzy kind of area.
Exciting.
A hip area then.
No, it's actually really touristy area.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Not exactly hip, I wouldn't say. Okay. Although it's not it's nice. They've done a lot of work to it recently. So this was as I was going past the venue, I was meeting up with Chrissy for dinner. And so this was they started to set up security and stuff. But and I had been in this theater before. I've been in there for live shows. So I knew that it was pretty big. Anyway, so we had dinner and then we came over to the venue. And the other thing that we'd gotten an email the day before, sort of giving the rundown of what time doors opened and everything. And they were because the event was at 8 and they said doors at 6:30, I think. And then from 8 to 8:30 was going to be a group meditation.
Oh, yes.
So no shade on meditation. I love meditation. I'm not so enthused about enforced group meditation.
Yeah, it's a little different than the beginning of a yoga class group meditation. Right. This is a lot longer than what that would be too.
Yes. So I was kind of saying maybe we can miss the meditation, but of course we didn't want to risk missing any of the sort of content. So, but we got there. I think we walked into the theater right before 8, maybe 5 minutes before 8, and it was pretty much full already. We had to shuffle and get people to stand up to get to our seats.
Oh wow.
So, everyone was there right on time, and it was huge. And they said there's 7,000 people here. And I've got a photo of the crowd from where I was sitting.
I was shocked. It's definitely, and it's funny. I saw a clip of Drew. Someone had posted on Instagram where she said the same thing too. She's I was expecting a classroom auditorium kind of setting.
Yeah.
Shockingly full.
I think I have a video of her saying that as well. Yeah.
Okay. How funny.
Yeah. It's, I was worried when she came out and said that because I was like, is she prepared?
She just faints out of anxiety.
Yeah.
She's used to her audience size at her show. It's just so small.
It's very small.
But a couple of things of when I was coming in. So when I got our tickets scanned, the person scanning our tickets was like, "You look like Drew Barrymore" to me.
Oh.
And I was kind of taken aback because I, rarely hear that anymore, although I used to a lot more. But then that made me feel really self-conscious because I was like, oh my God, there's 7,000 people here to see Drew, and are they all looking at me and thinking that? And oh my God.
Are they doing double takes?
Yeah, I know. So it just made me feel really aware. But Christy kind of was behind me and I don't think she quite heard what the security person said, but she kind of got the gist and she was like, did she just tell you that you look like Drew? It's yes. When we walked in, in the sort of foyer area, there was, a stall with Wanderlust. So they sell supplements basically. So there was a stall selling their supplements.
Yeah. Did you know that, Anne?
No, I don't think I knew that.
Okay. Kind of weird.
Right. And then there was a little podium stage thing next to that booth that just had a single dancer on it who was doing a sort of interpretive dance with no music. And I was like, that's the kind of event we're at. Okay. And I've been to a lot of
woo-woo.
I was going to say woo-woo shit. And I was like, can I say that here?
Yeah, you can absolutely say that. We understand what that means.
I lived in the Bay Area for 10 years. Like I've
sure.
seen some woo-woo shit, you know. So I was kind of, I guess I was like a little prepared for something like that because I had seen a bit of their socials and there was a bit of the, you know, that their conversation, their tone was a bit like that. But I was, being there, I was just like, okay. And I'm like, I'm open-minded, but also not sort of into that stuff. And the other thing I was going to say is that they had a competition, like, I guess it was maybe a month before the event. They sent out, you know, an email to ticket holders or whatever, and they said they had a competition for a meet and greet with Drew, but you had to go buy a product of theirs, and then, you know, like enter the receipt and I think do like a quiz or something. There was, and then it was like you go into the draw to win a meet and greet kind of thing. And I stopped at buying one of the products.
You're like, this is too much work.
You're like, it's not even too much work. It's also like,
yeah. Do I want this?
Yeah. I'm just not really like a supplement kind of gal. But anyway, so I didn't enter. But also I feel like I've had my moment with Drew and like that was really special to me and that felt complete. And I just didn't feel like I needed to like go out of my way to kind of repeat that, which I'm very fortunate to be able to say.
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I figured on the night that Chemist Warehouse was the connection between these two people because I was also like, why is she here for this event with this company? And so they sell the product, their supplements at Chemist Warehouse, and that's also the only place you can buy Flower Beauty in Australia.
That totally makes sense.
And by the way, we recently had friends from the US visit and they were like, they saw a Chemist Warehouse and they're like, what's a chemist?
It's such a weird name.
And I was like, it's a drugstore. Yeah, it's a drugstore.
The Chemist Warehouse.
But they had this image of like, like lab coats and like mixing tinctures together and, you know.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Exactly.
They sell those things and Flower Beauties there.
Randomly. Yeah. That makes sense though, because we've been trying to figure out the whole time, like, why is she doing this? This feels so random.
Yeah.
We also talk a lot about how she's very strategic about like how she spends her time and what events she chooses to do. So am I surprised at all that there's a very likely business connection? Not at all. Like that track.
Also, I did happen to notice that the only one of her like people who came along is Wilfredo, and he like runs Barrymore brands. So that would sort of make sense as well.
We cracked the code.
We always do it.
Yeah, although she wasn't like talking about Flower Beauty at all. So
interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, Chemist Warehouse were a big sponsor.
You had to sit through this big, long meditation, which I heard her on a radio show like right before she left to fly out there. And they brought that up. And she's like, well, if people fall asleep during it, that's okay. That just means they probably needed the rest. So she might have also been like, I don't know why we're doing that, but
yeah. So it was like, I actually thought it was really, it had like it gave a very nice mood, I guess, to the evening. There was a person creating like a soundscape and a person like a meditation guide, I guess, doing, you know, sort of guiding it as well. And like, I think that's all. There's nothing, I'm not going to like shit on that. Right. It was lovely. But it was very long. I mean, it ended up being, I think 20 minutes of that whole thing.
That's a long time. I feel like 5 to 7 is probably, probably good enough.
And from the vibe of the people sitting around me and like the row behind me, the person next to me, everybody was really like, what? And like just going 20 minutes, like that's a long time. And, you know, there was a few giggles and I don't know, like from the people around me, people were not really that into it, but it's not like people were talking through the whole thing. They were, I mean, I think being respectful like I was as well. And I was just definitely looking around and I was enjoying the sound and stuff, but I wasn't meditating. I can't meditate in that situation.
Was Drew there meditating as well? Or was she like backstage?
She was not. No,
so it's
she
like
was not.
just everybody's like antsy waiting for the real thing to start.
Like we need to make sure the crowd is very calm.
Yes. Yeah. It's like the opposite of like a hype guy or like a warm up.
It's the anti-hype guy.
My gosh.
Oh my God.
I love that.
Yeah.
If every like recording I went to started with like a meditation, instead of like a hype person. And when it's like there's no applause thing, it's just like silence.
Everybody be quiet.
But I do wonder how she felt about that. Now that you said that she was saying that people might fall asleep, I'm like,
well,
isn't that...
and she was also saying that she has a really hard time being consistent with meditation, and like people that are really good at it, she's like, man, good for you. Gosh, I can't do that. Like, so she might have been backstage also like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to each their own. But like for me, meditation is like a solo practice. Anyway, so I guess, founder of Wanderlust was sort of introduced it and then introduced the meditation. So the meditation finished and then she came on and she introduced Drew, and Drew just walked out like by herself. Like there was not a huge introduction. I think the Wanderlust person talked about Drew's meditation closet.
Oh, okay.
So that was, she made like the sort of connection to that.
Neat.
And then, yeah, and then Drew walked out and then just, first of all, she was just like, there's so many of you. And I was like, what is happening? Because it was just her. But I mean, you saw the pictures of the stage setup. There was like a couch and 2 armchairs. So I was like, okay, maybe this is like a Graham Norton vibe where like they're going to have all the guests on together, and, you know, had no idea how it was going to go.
Yeah.
But then she was like, oh my God, I didn't know there were so many people. I thought we were going to be like sitting on the ground in a circle. And, you know, she was just like, I don't assume anything, you know, and I'm really honored that everyone's here. And she started saying, holy cow. And then later on, she was like swearing away. So I was like,
I love that.
she was easing into it.
She got more comfortable.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, then she was just like, oh, I realize this is not a Q&A. I'm just supposed to talk. So I'll do that. And I was like, what? And then she just talked seemingly off the cuff for about 30 minutes.
Well, that tracks. It's not hard for her to just ramble.
Right. She sat on the edge of the stage for a bit. She walked around for a bit. And yeah, she was just like, but what was I've never seen her in that mode before. You know, like I've watched the talk show. I've watched clips of the talk show. But like seeing this kind of unedited start to finish thing was very different. And I have a whole, like, of course I respect her already, but like I have a whole new respect for her in this mode because it's very different to acting. It's very different to being interviewed on a talk show. And so what I then quickly realized is that we're basically at her show. We were like at a taping of her show, except we weren't in a studio. So that was like very, I had no idea it was going to be like that. She was hosting. Like I thought she was going to be interviewed because there was also something in the marketing materials about like Drew will talk about her life or whatever, you know. And so, but that I just really thought there was going to be some interviewer interviewing her and then somehow they would integrate the rest of the guests. But no, she was the host. She was interviewing the other guests.
It makes me wonder if the event kind of evolved into what it became because of this, because it was very vague. Like I think I used the word intimate earlier and I forget what you just said, but like, yeah, going into her life, I feel like it said stuff like she'll talk about things she hasn't talked about openly ever before. And I remember being like, what?
I know. I almost thought it was like a one-woman show kind of thing was going to go on.
Like Tess said, there would be somebody who would be like guiding her through kind of an exploration of her life. But exactly what you said, Tess, like not only maybe do I think it evolved, but also like, yeah, that unedited time at the show, I've been to one of them, but there is this sort of like feeling like between guests and, you know, like she just kind of is herself and just kind of like off the cuff just talks and makes connections. And it might be a philosophical conversation. It might be just about whatever, her day. But that is so funny to try to think of like, what was it? What was the impetus and what it became? Is that exactly what they envisioned? Anyway.
Right.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And as someone like for my work, I work in marketing and I don't put on the events myself, but I'm involved with events that we put on and I see how the sausage is made from that perspective. And I can totally see that it would have come together. It could have come together like that. Yeah. But it was very interesting. And, you know, she did great, like with no script, no notes, anything like that. But so she said in the beginning that she was like, I wanted to come and be in the meditation, but I realized that I needed to be there for my daughter. So I assumed that like her daughters were there with her backstage.
Yeah.
She kind of gestured backstage, although I hadn't seen any video of her in Sydney with them or anything like that. Like her Instagram was devoid of any Australia content.
I think Ashley had a note that she said she brought the girls there for their
she brought them
summer vacation.
It's like their summer vacation. Exactly.
Right. Sorry to come to winter in Sydney, but
oh, I forgot it's winter there. Oh my gosh.
But how cold is it there? Like, what is the winter like in the city?
So actually it's been fairly nice while she's been here. We can have randomly really warm days. Like Saturday was actually quite warm. I think it got to about 20 degrees Celsius, which I never, even though I lived there for 10 years, I never did the Fahrenheit conversion stuff.
I think that's like somewhere like 80 degrees. I always
high 70s.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Plenty nice. Probably. Yeah. That's probably great.
Yeah. Or mid 70s. Yeah. Like during the day, at night, it can get down.
68 is, that's like perfect.
Oh, 68. Okay, lower than what I thought.
So.
And I said 80, so I was way off too.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I know there are two, this is totally a deviation from the topic, but there are two that my husband always remembers. There are two sort of set points that you can remember. So 16 Celsius is 61 Fahrenheit. You spin it around. And 28 Celsius is 82 Fahrenheit. So there's like those
helpful.
Two numbers. So that can be your guidepost.
And then just kind of flow within that.
Yeah.
See, this is an educational podcast.
It is. Welcome to Temperatures
with Tess.
Oh my God. The units of temperature with
I'm here for it. No, so it's quite pleasant during the day.
So how long was she on the stage on her own before like the first guest came out?
I think it was like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a long time to just be doing it on your own in front of 7,000 people.
Right. So she sort of was like, oh, I wanted to do the meditation, but, I needed to be with my daughter in that moment. And, I was with you guys and I was listening, but I was also being a parent. I was like, were you listening? Like, what were you listening to?
What did you hear?
Then she was kind of like, and then what was on the front of my mind was like, who here struggles? And she like snaps into this kind of thing. So then she starts talking about her therapy and that Barry Michaels and
she loves name dropping him.
Yeah,
the meditation closet, and she's talking about like how she has her sessions with him every Monday, and who struggles with consistency and that kind of thing. So she just kind of started riffing and talking about this like part X concept that he has. And so obviously like she's done a lot of therapy. She knows how to talk the talk in terms of therapy.
Yep.
And then talking about like having a narrative of yourself that you're then kind of escaping. So it got like, got sort of real self-help real fast.
Yep.
And then she kind of got into like how we can, she said, this might be a truism, but she said, I'm a human pen and so are you. And said like, we can write the next chapter of our lives.
I love that. That is a truism for sure.
Then she like pivoted to how she was recently speaking with Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General of the US. And I'm guessing that was on her show.
No, she went to it was like in someone's New York apartment living room. It was like 10 people.
Yeah, I remember hearing you talk about that. Yeah. Yeah. So she was talking about that and how he hears that, when people are kind of at the end of their lives, that they say that the most important thing is their relationships with other people. And so she was just kind of making the connection that how important it is for her to connect with other people, and that she gets to do that with the show for a living.
She just needed the Surgeon General to tell her that.
Yeah. It's for your health.
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, she also was like amazed that anyone here had heard of her show because it's not broadcast here.
Oh, like at all.
But obviously but that hardly matters anymore with the internet. But yeah, no, it's not on, as far as I know, it's not on. Who even has actual
Right.
TV anymore.
True.
I don't even know if it's on TV.
It is so like in keeping with her personality to be like, no one could possibly know about this little thing I do that no one in the world probably cares about.
Yes, totally. Yeah, and she was also just like thanking everybody for their time. And like you were saying before about she's being more conscious, I guess, about how she spends her time. And so she was like, we have precious time and starting to realize that and etc. So she talked a little bit about, turning 50. She talked about how she stopped drinking 5 years ago. And I thought it was funny that she straight away, as soon as she said she stopped drinking, people usually cheer. And then she straight away was like, I'm not sober. I don't do a program. Like
she always says that. I don't know why. It's like a weird defensive thing she throws in there.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between being sober.
Yeah.
Like, I think that she probably doesn't want the extra criticism that it would be to like be sober, to be
or
a sober representative of being completely sober. Because I don't know if she says like, if she has a glass of wine every once in a while.
Doesn't sound like it anymore. She used to say that, but now she's always like, I quit drinking, but I don't work a program. Like, I think that means I'm not in AA. She's done AA. She knows what that looks like. Maybe it's just not what's in her like path right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why she doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is interesting, but I guess I can see how she maybe wants to distance herself from like a structure of that.
Yeah.
And just,
Totally.
Anyway.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, and then she was sort of talking about how it's hard to work out and you just want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. And she was talking about escaping narratives and like her narrative being that like you're a bad girl. And that she's like, well, now I'm a mom and I have 2 daughters. And, then talking about boundaries and how she didn't grow up with boundaries. She said all of this stuff before.
We're always talking about this, especially as we go through Little Girl Lost on our Patreon.
Yes.
Did she use the words a bad girl?
Yes.
Wow. That's like poignant to me.
She said, it was my narrative. You're a bad girl. You do bad things. You're a bad girl. Yeah.
Wow. That makes me so sad.
Yeah. But yeah, then she was saying how, she never heard no. And now she realizes that kids have to say no. And also we have to say no to ourselves, like no to others about ourselves.
Yeah.
I like how we are in this as like longtime Drew fans, seeing Drew like come out of all of that trauma and sort of like she's using the therapy terms, putting the names on it, but it's like, oh good, she's realizing like what it is about her childhood that's made her the way that she is and how she can use those skills and that learning for her children. But and of course this has like become such a like her theme is like Drew in therapy era, like, but I love it,
Right. But yeah, one thing she kept saying as well is how even like through all of those times is that people were kind to her. And in my head, I was like, not everybody was kind to you.
Yeah.
She just gave everyone else grace but herself. Because I know what that's like.
She still does. Yeah. Anne is exactly the same.
I am Drew. You look like Drew and I am her. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So then she was just kind of talking about how can you make yourself someone that you turn to for comfort, I guess, and how she can do that. So she was like, this is a new concept. I'm workshopping it.
That's cute.
And just saying how like everyone is incredible. And there was a line that she said that I really liked, and which was like, all our heroes that aren't superheroes are humans. And they're all people that we can look to and we can marvel at. And so we know they're a human and we're a human. So that proves that we are also capable of doing what they do because we're human and like being kinder to yourself. And so like for me, I mean, what I picked up from this was these themes of kindness and of curiosity, because she's talking about like connecting with other people and how she gets to chat with people on the show and stuff. And kindness and curiosity are like 2 values that I try and live by. And I know that, you guys talk quite a bit on the podcast about how like Drew has made you a better person or whatever. And I feel like those are things that I see that she embodies, like values that she embodies, and not just, I mean, they're things that I've known about before this event, but it just made me reflect on that, how those are values that she embodies and have been inspiring, I guess, to me to also embody those values.
I love that.
But I also definitely remember reading something about when she first had kids, or when she was talking about parenting, and I remember this sort of be kind, be curious. I remember those as two sort of themes there as well. But yeah, I was just sort of reflecting on that. And we also know, like, through the one time for me and many times for you that you've met her, is that she is that, like, she embodies that when you're actually there with her as well. She's like, yeah. And
I just had a really I'm like, there's a quote from her about curiosity when she was promoting Little Girl Lost. And she's like super sullen, like rolling her hair. And she goes, I'm just a very curious person. And I used to say, why should I live in curiosity? But that little sentence there got me into so much trouble.
Oh my God, I totally know.
Not the type of curiosity you were referring to,
Just
but
a very
like,
curious person. That's the bad girl version of her. That I know exactly what you're talking about, Ashley.
Look, I'm all for curiosity and exploration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then, you know, she talks about like humor, which we all know how much she loves humor and funny people.
Yeah.
She also mentioned Desiderata, which I don't know if you guys know that.
No.
It's a book that I know. And I think I've read it maybe a long time ago, but she said when she was 14, like, she read In Desiderata. It's short. You should read it. And it's Actually, I should have researched this before I came on, but in my mind, it's actually sort of like a long poem, but maybe it's just, anyway, it's quite short. She quoted a line from that she said, you know, this thing that she read changed her life, and it's listen to people, for they have their stories too.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely heard her say that.
Yeah, like everyone has a story, and, you know, and she was like, and I think that's very wanderlusty. So like always the professional bringing it back to the theme, you know.
She's definitely stated that, like, that's sort of why she likes doing the talk show. And like, she doesn't want to just interview like famous people. Like, she wants to have these Drew-Gooders on and people from all different walks of life, because everyone has a story. So I love
the way
that.
she connects with the audience, that we see those like behind the scenes clips of her talking to the audience too. And people, every now and then, people were like yelling stuff out from the audience. And somebody said like something about Forgetful Lucy, you know, and she was like, what? Lindsay? And they're like, no, Lucy. Oh, and she's like, oh, Lucy. And then she was like, oh, I was with Adam Sandler like 3 days ago. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they were talking about their upcoming film project. But yeah, she was saying how she has this like Polaroid on her desk that's her and Adam hanging out on Sydney Harbour when they were promoting The Wedding Singer. And so she was sort of making that like connection.
I want to see that, Drew.
Yeah, I know. And she was just like, he's the greatest, like he's everything that you want him to be. And it's funny because that's exactly what I said after I met Drew, you know,
Yes,
like
totally
everything you wanted to be. And then the next point that she made before the guests started coming out was, I think also salient, which how she was talking about, because she sort of segued then from Lucy and saying how she was always so good at playing characters. And she was like so brave and she never questioned anything. Like, I'll be a Charlie's Angel, no problem. Oh, you want me to be forgetful, Lucy? Like, I got this. And then it's like, oh, you want me to be myself and talk and listen and have no veneer? That's the scariest thing ever. And so this sort of idea of how you have to be brave to be yourself. And but then, you know, it's like worth it to do that. So that was sort of another theme that kept coming up throughout the night.
That.
And I think, you know, authenticity is such a buzzword, and she actually never said the word authenticity, I don't think. But, you know, it is, I think, something I reflected on. We're just thinking of when it's necessary for this human connection that she's talking about. And yeah, it came up a bit in her interviews that I'll talk about in a sec.
It's so interesting how she says, you know, it's so scary to just be herself. And yet so much of her life has been, of course, this is obvious, but it's in the public eye. So even though this is her being herself in a way where it's on a show with her name on it, she's always been herself. It's like there's nothing about, that. It's just she's doing it in a much more like, look at me, I'm Drew Barrymore and I'm the host of the show way. And I don't think she's in any way different than she ever was. So it's like interesting how she sees it as like scary. And yes, it's almost like the one woman show. She's almost doing, it's just her. She's just being her on a stage. She's not being those characters. But there's something about everything about her as a host feels like that's what she was supposed to do, sort of. Like it's like, it is exactly her to be curious, interested, open, vulnerable, kind, all the, I don't know. It just feels funny to think of her actually finding that to be scary, but she's always just been her. I don't know. I shouldn't say always.
It is. No, you're right, though. Like, it's an interesting dichotomy because, like, especially as we're reading Little Girl Lost, and I've just been like looking at a lot of old articles, like, both things make sense to me. She has always authentically been herself, but she's also always kind of like, she went through a period of really not wanting to like be in touch with herself, right? Or like doing things to numb it.
Or maybe it's also, we're paying so much attention that it's like, we have narrowed in on all that information, all that wisdom, the Druisms. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's like people are seeing what we already knew. And it's like, if you had people already loving you for being exactly you, maybe she didn't realize we were loving her for all of those parts that are just her and not just the actress. That people already loved the her part of it.
I love that. I think you're right. Maybe she didn't realize that. Maybe she's like, oh, people just like ever after or whatever.
Yeah. Well, also, like, we're getting deep now, but like knowing yourself is the hardest thing in life, but also like the most important thing. And that's something I say to my kids all the time now that I have, gone through this many years on the planet. And I wish for my younger self that I had realized it earlier. So I try to impart it on my kids, which I guess is like one of the things that you do when you're a parent.
Yeah. And it goes on deaf ears.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I always just say to them, like, the main thing that I want for you is to really know yourself and then to be that, like, unapologetically, to be able to feel like you can be that in the world and not have to like hide any of it. Because I certainly didn't feel like that growing up. I don't know if many people did, but I wonder if that's sort of like how it is for her, where she doesn't feel like she feels like she's only coming into her own and understanding herself more. But we've seen it, and that's probably how it is for most of us. Like, probably, I mean, when you guys met me 25 years ago, you were probably like, oh, like, I know who Tess is. I know who she is. But it takes a long time for me to realize that, even though it's the same Tess.
That's such a good point. And also to imagine that we would know Drew in some ways more than she knows herself. I think that is true. That somebody from the outside.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
But it was all like outwards. But she didn't sort of reflect on it.
Yeah.
Someone yelled out, "I'm not Josie Gracey anymore," and she did like a big like, "I'm not Josie Gracey anymore."
I do hate when people yell from the audience, like, like when you listen to a live podcast and someone's doing it, it's like, just shut up. This isn't about you. But that's cute that she went along with it.
And I know. And like whenever someone yelled out, "I love you," she would be like, "I love you too," But yeah, she yelled out, she said, she did the line, but then she was like, "I am so Josie Gracey. I always have been. I always will be." Then she was just like, I think I'm supposed to do something now. And she's like, I'm usually better at my job than this. I was like, what is happening right now? So then there was like a little coffee table thing there, and she walked up there to look at, I guess she did have some notes there, but just to see like who was the next person coming out. It didn't look like she had like an earpiece. She may have, that I just didn't see, but and then I didn't know if she had like a monitor or something that was telling her anything, but she definitely was like looking to each side of the stage and
someone
being
help.
And then she's just like, okay, we're gonna go to Carla Raines. And so Carla Raines was this was the like charity partner and has this really cool charity called Bridget, 2 words, Bridget, that's like to do with like women and homeless women and getting them back on their feet, basically. And And then the funniest thing, though, that I thought when she came out was like, you know, they got on the couch and Drew was like, sat down close and then kind of shuffled away and was like, I got a note from my bosses that I touch people too much. And it's just so funny to me because every time you see a clip, there's always people commenting about like get out of her personal space, Drew.
Oh
and
my
stuff.
God, it's so tired at this point.
So, yeah. So the fact that she like addressed that was hilarious, and she was like, "I'm not kidding. They focus grouped me." And they're like too touchy, and she was like, "How fucking embarrassing."
Oh.
Too touching.
I hope she doesn't read the comments because they're mean.
Yeah. But it was just funny that like she didn't know that she was doing that, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, or she didn't think that there was wrong, or she just felt like it was natural, or she was being herself to do that. And you know, I know when I met her, like she was very willing to hug me, and you know, like she is just that. That's just who she is.
One of her security guards made a comment to me that he like is always trying to tell her, don't touch everyone. Like but she's like not at all afraid for her own safety in any way, shape, or form. And
yeah. I mean, it's all she's ever known.
Yeah, but it's also
Yeah.
like she's Drew, and I think she's used to getting away with like just presenting people with her warmth and affection and getting it back, you know? Like
yeah.
So I think even if
true.
someone was somewhat uncomfortable with it in the moment, they like as an interviewee, they'd probably be like, "Oh, it's Drew. This is just Drew."
Wouldn't let someone else do this, but she's fine.
Yeah, but I just thought it was funny how she was like, "Oh my God, it's so embarrassing," and then she was just really trying to like restrain herself, you know, from doing
She's probably like gripping the seats, like keeping herself back.
But then the thing is, like, and she says this later, something about, you know, that on her show, but also in conversations, I guess, generally, is that she's like, I get real deep real fast, you know, and she's like, because that's the beauty of it. And the thing is that, yeah, like most of her conversations with guests got real deep real fast. And then it's like often because people are being so vulnerable and that there is like an emotional release and then she needs to hug them, you know? So, even though she's like, okay, I'm trying not to be touchy-feely, this first person, Carla Rains, so she was talking first of all about like what her charity does, but then, you know, Drew is also like, she asks really amazing questions that like, I know she's done her research, but she's not reading her questions from a card. She is like fully present with
reacting
the person.
to them.
Reacting to them, and just the way, the thoughtfulness that she has with the questions. And so she was asking, like, her first question basically after like, tell us what you do, was like, how did you choose to do this with your life? Like, was there something that happened to you that like made you be this? And so straight away she's just like, I usually dodge this question, but today I'm going to say like the real answer. And everyone's like, so that was like the theme of the night, is like, it got real deep real fast, you know? And it turns out that she had this like really interesting story, you know, from her previous life that like made her want to do this charity work and everything. And then Drew's just like, how did you survive in your job without telling that story? Because it's like so relevant to what you do. But yeah, so yeah, and then like you took a life experience and you made it your strength. And so she was just kind of then linking back to what she had been saying earlier.
Yeah. She does do a beautiful
and she
job
just
at
like
that.
she does such a good job. And that's a really hard job. Like, as much as I try to be curious about people, like, it is really hard to stay focused on what someone's saying and pull out the sort of what they're trying to say, the like theme of what they're saying, to link it together with other things. And she was very like generous as an interviewer. Like, she didn't talk a lot about herself, you know, in those moments, but unless it was something sort of relevant that she was connecting with. But yeah, so then each speaker or each like person on the couch was probably about 15 minutes each. Okay. And she like, it was funny, like sometimes in the transition between two guests is that she was just like, oh man, I need to like marinate in that, you know, it's hard to like transition into the next person because there's like, she really wanted to like think about what they had been speaking about.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah. So then Tones and I came out and she performed 2 songs from her new album that just came out on that same day. And so she only had like a very brief introduction at the start, but Drew was like sitting cross-legged on the couch, just like intently staring at her, for the whole time.
That's so accurate.
Yeah, like I can imagine other talk show hosts would be like shuffling through their notes or like having a drink or going off stage or whatever, like while someone's performing, but she was just like really listening. And Tones and her new music is like quite emotional, introspective, and she broke down crying in the first song and sort of had to pull herself together and keep going. And so then like when she came onto the couch after that, Drew was just like, how do you like keep singing? Or I think she said, how do you do that? How do you get out and sing like that? How do you cut and bleed like that? She said.
I love that.
And I think that was interesting, like an interesting analogy, I guess, to make between the sort of acting and being a character versus a musician who is normally like being very vulnerable, because if they've written their own songs and, they're the sort of actors are very vulnerable too, but you have that veneer of like, I'm putting on a character. And like, sure, like not all musicians, every song is about themselves. Like sometimes they do sort of put on a character in a song, but her songs in particular were like very personal. And so I think Drew was just sort of in awe of the fact that she like put herself out there so much.
That's so cool.
She opened for Pink. I went and saw Pink earlier this year and she opened for her. And I've known her story vaguely. She like started as a busker and got sort of discovered through that. But so it was she was quite vulnerable and like emotional, and just sort of saying how she had sort of been a songwriter, and I guess things like Dance Monkey, and then now she's like actually being herself and like a human being and writing about what she's going through. And so Drew made the connection with what she was saying earlier about how like playing characters was this sort of armor and came easier to her. And then, now it's like, she's being herself. So she was sort of making that connection.
Cool.
So, and Tones was sort of saying, have you played a character that's like so badass and cool, and you're like, she's so much cooler than me and I want to be that character. And she was like, well, for me it was kind of like the opposite, where she sort of started playing down and saying like she wasn't like she didn't deserve the fame that she was getting, and she hadn't really worked. Like people were sort of making this narrative about her where she hadn't deserved to get where she was. Like she was just someone who suddenly got discovered, and then she was like on Jimmy Fallon and on Ellen, and but she was like, I lived in my car for 2 years and played music on the street.
Wow.
So the other thing that was interesting that she talked about was like online bullying, which I guess she was subject to a lot. And she said something about like, if you're in a public space and you see like 50 people attacking someone, would you not like get in there and try and stop it? And like, why is that different online?
Such a good point.
And Drew seemed really, sort of touched by that and was like, So that was cool. And
that is cool.
Then the next person out was G Flip. You know who that is?
I do not.
Okay.
Me neither.
So G Flip is Australian, but I'm a little ashamed to say that the first time that I heard of them was through Selling Sunset on Netflix, because they're one of or like their now wife, Chriselle, is one of the agents on Selling Sunset.
I've heard good things about that show. I know it's one of those reality type shows, but no shame.
I don't think it's your style, Anne.
Definitely trashy TV watching, but so that was the first time that I'd heard of them. But then they've been on like other things then after that. But they like seem like a really cool person, and G Flip's a drummer but also a singer and like plays other instruments as well. Anyway, there was a funny thing when she was introducing G Flip. She was like, okay, we've got to keep going. Like sometimes it's hard to keep going because you want to just like marinate. In the she was like marinate in the amazing juices of the smart, amazing experiences that other people have lived.
That's a truism.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And the other thing she said after that I noted down because I really liked it was she was like, oh, when you hear their stories, it affects you so much. And then as she was like, the thing that she said to sort of get over that and onto the next thing was she was like, butterflies for our nets.
Aww.
And then she just like said the next thing. And it was so like, it was such a lovely little like metaphor or, visual of just this thing of like, you've caught this butterfly and then, okay, like you can move on. Like it's sort of adding to the richness of life experiences. And then,
That's cool. We always want Drew to be talking about butterflies.
I know. I was going to say, oh, I'm so excited she mentioned butterflies.
And also like the backdrop had butterflies on it as well. So it was like, butterflies were behind her. So it was like a little serendipitous moment. Yeah. And the funny thing when G Flip came out, so G Flip has a lot of tattoos, but one of them is the number 22.
Oh.
So Drew was just like, oh my God, 22. And so it's also their favorite number. So they had like a little rant about that. And Drew was like, Drew said, I want to get a tattoo of 22 so badly. So
Kind
that
of
might be the
surprised
next
she
one.
hasn't.
That's awesome. Good intel.
Yeah. But G Flip was like, you should do it. I know a tattoo artist in Sydney. Like, you should do it.
Ooh.
And Drew was like, oh, I wouldn't give to have a tattoo from Australia. And, she was like this thing about, I mean, it is a thing as somebody who is tattooed of like collecting tattoos from places that you go and having like the memory attached to that tattoo of where you got it. And
I would love to see a new 22 on her arm. Like next time we see her, that'd be so cool.
We're so excited.
So then they were talking a little bit about like planting seeds and like G Flip was kind of saying, I've tried to plant a lot of seeds in my career and just like see what grows. So there was like a bit of a garden metaphor and Drew was like, I wonder if I planted too many seeds. Like, do I need to edit? And then she was like, that's what my best friend tells me. And it later turns out that it was Nan because she mentions Nan, but she's like, my best friend tells me all the time, I need to edit. Like I talk too much, I do too much.
I feel like I've heard her say that about Nancy, that Nancy's very like, cut it down.
That's why they're a good team.
Right. And then G Flip is like, I think you're perfect, Drew,
Aww.
And she's like, well, thank you. And she's like, no, but we're planting seeds here tonight. We're planting this beautiful garden. And then she's like, shit, what was my question?
Relatable.
And then and she said, she was like, I went so deep in the fucking garden metaphor.
She's like, I forgot what I was talking about. That's how into my metaphor I got.
Sounds about right.
Right. So yeah, there was then a bit about like G Flip's background and stuff. And then then Drew was like, I do think we have to make edits. Nan, wherever you are. And she kind of like looked up at the sky and I'm like, Nan's not dead.
It feels that way, sort of. She doesn't ever seem like she's around Drew.
Right. Sure. But yeah, I mean, I know that she's like on the other side of the world, so I totally understand what she meant. But it was just funny the way she said it. And she's like, Nan, wherever you are.
The world is not a flat piece of paper, Drew. I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah. And so then the next person out was Michael Klim, who is an ex-Olympian swimmer for Australia. And so I'm very familiar with the name, but I haven't seen him in a long time. And so he came out and he's interesting because like he was, 3-time Olympian or whatever, like had the world record and then like retired from that, had business. I don't know what business he was in, but had businesses. And then now has an autoimmune disease. So he actually came out like using a walking stick and was talking about how hard it is for him to get around and stuff at the moment. And yeah, so that was, he was talking about his journey, which was interesting. And he's written a book, which he brought out a copy for her. Yeah, one of the things that she latched onto that Michael Klim was saying is how like he only knew one pace and then he got this autoimmune disease and had to like really slow down and how that meant. And the question that she asked, which like I was really astounded about how she like had the lucidity to kind of put together these questions in the moment. Because I would just be like, is that she said, is there a way to come to that epiphany without the diagnosis?
Oh.
Ooh.
And I was like, wow. Like, so she's trying to get from him, like,
How can you become grounded without having a massive traumatic life change?
yeah, or slow down.
Force
slow
yourself
down
to
the
slow down.
pace.
Wow,
And
that's a beautiful question to think of, like,
the way she had of putting it.
yeah.
Yeah. The way she had of putting it was really
Well,
amazing.
especially as someone who has like been a workaholic her entire life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It made me think of when she interviewed Jeanette McCurdy, who wrote I'm Glad My Mum Died, because I read that book as well. And that she sort of said to her, like, how can one say these things about their mother when their mother is still alive, just asking for a friend,
Just curious.
And that was also like that thing that kind of blew up, is like, Drew wants her mom to die. Like, oh, geez.
Yeah. But like, if you know anything about her and her relationship with her mum, you would totally understand.
Yes. Listen to our Patreon if you're not already on our Patreon. Tess already is, so she knows.
Yeah, we get it. We get into her mom a lot. There's a lot coming in the next chapter, by the way. I'll just tease that now.
Quick plug.
Patreon.com/HowDoYouDrew.
So I thought that was just a very like beautiful way to phrase that question. And then, she talked about also how she like surrounded herself with a certain type of people, because he was saying like having a support network and having like supportive people around you. And she was like, I always surrounded myself in people that I wished I was more like.
Aw.
And she was like, they were always like smarter and more emotionally rational. And I was like flipping out like a monkey throwing their feces, and they were like behaving in a way that I just never thought I could get to. Like, how are they so calm and collected? Why aren't they flipping out? Yeah. And then she was like, I don't know how I didn't drive these people away over the course of my lifetime. And she was like, most of my best friends I've been best friends with for 30 years. And like, I don't know how that happened. It's a miracle. And he just said, when you've got a good heart, people stick around.
Oh, yeah, Drew, you
Who
do.
is it that I feel like said you just want to take care of her? Was that the act?
I think we've heard that a
But
lot.
I feel like there's somebody specific who says it. I don't know. I feel like it's the woman who Mary Stuart Masterson, is that her name? Not Mary Stuart Masterson.
Oh, Mary Louise Parker.
Doesn't she say you just want to take care of her?
Yeah.
So I think that when somebody is vulnerable and loving and excitable and all of these things that we know Drew to be, I've always kind of thought about how, like, when I think of like calm and collected, I think of Nan, I think of Chris Miller, I think of like some of these people who like have kept her, like she's this.
I mean, even Ross, I feel like does that on the show, like keeps things a little more level and grounded.
But aren't we so glad that they've like embraced her as her and then tried to figure out how to structure around that? Like, we're lucky that she has those people around her that can foster that too.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's sort of what we were saying earlier about how like maybe other people know you before you know yourself. Like other people see that she's a good person and she has a good heart and everything, but it takes her a while to realize, and maybe she won't ever realize, like, why is that? Yeah.
Took her 50 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yep.
It's because of her dad.
Yeah.
No.
Partially. Definitely partially.
Yeah.
So the next person was Dannii Minogue, who you guessed correctly. She is Kylie Minogue's sister, but also has an amazing career in her own right. And both Dannii Minogue and Kylie Minogue, have been in the public eye since they were very young. So that was something that I think Drew latched onto straight away.
Wow, that's cool.
She was like, she said a few times between guests, like, I've got a marinade, and she's like, I'm not good at faking anything, she's like, I've got kids and transitions are real. Anyway, so Dannii Minogue came out and Dannii, so you saw what Drew was wearing, which I loved her outfit. Like the oversized pants that were sort of like an olive green color, and then this like big blouse, like white or cream blouse, and like a big black bow. And then Dannii came out and she was wearing this beautiful like floral dress that was like very fitting. It was like a red carpet-ish kind of look. Yeah, it was beautiful. It had flowers all over it. And Drew was like, why do I all of a sudden look like your general manager?
Oh, goodness.
That is great.
Which is so funny. Yeah, so then they talked about flowers for a bit. Yeah, so there she is. And they're both tiny as well. So Dannii Minogue actually has like a, at our version of Target, which is nowhere near as good as US Target, Dannii Minogue actually has like a line of clothing for petite women, like the petite sort of thing. So yeah, she's famously petite, as is Drew. Although Drew was wearing, of course, gigantic shoes.
Of course.
Always.
And she kept saying how she was going to eat it on the stage. And at some point she like stopped and was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Like to someone in the audience, sort of in front of her. And I think they had a quick sort of dialogue, and I think they had tripped over, and she was like, "Oh, I'm going to eat it too." And she's like, "We just got to make sure that everyone's okay." And she didn't. She maybe had a couple of little stumbles, but also like I was also thinking back to how you recently had her tailor on your show, like because her pants are like the hem is tailored perfectly to the ground. It's like, wow.
Yep.
I need a tailor. Can I be like rich so I can have a tailor?
I was fully thinking that when we were interviewing him, like, wow, that would be amazing.
If all of our clothes just like
everything just fit right.
I mean, I had someone tell me that they
God.
like get things tailored just like at like, you know, like a like a laundromat. You know, some of them do tailoring.
Yeah.
But they said they do that like regularly, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I guess I could do that.
I know. It's like a luxury I would never think of doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, so then they talked about flowers for a bit, and Drew was like, you know what I love about flowers is that like they're like they have no negative context. Like no one gets angry about flowers. You never give someone a flower and they're like, what the fuck is this?
I've definitely heard her say that before. I love that. It's so true.
I have to say in my own head, I was like, well, actually, I unfortunately have had to stop having flowers in the house because my youngest son is allergic.
Oh, no.
He gets like,
oh, no.
Yeah. So it's really sad.
So then you are like, what the fuck is this? You are trying to kill my child. Drew, you are wrong.
It's really
there is a negative
sad.
context. We don't want Tess's child to die.
Like he's not like, you know, deathly allergic, but like on Mother's Day when they get me like a huge bouquet of flowers, he like immediately starts having like itchy eyes, runny nose, you know. Yeah, so that sucks. But I was like, that's sort of a negative context, but that I'm going to keep that to myself. Until now, I'm on the podcast. I can talk about it.
You didn't yell it from the audience. Oh yeah, well my son can't have flowers.
What about allergies? Yeah, I really wanted to bring the mood down, and then maybe they would do another meditation just to like calm everyone out again.
Just what you needed.
Yeah. And also like it was cool that Dannii shouted out that a couple of women in the audience that she had flown up from Melbourne that day. And these women were like on the same plane, and they approached her and they were like, we're coming to the thing tonight. And got a photo with her. And, you know, she was just, talking about it. So she said, she was like that they told her like, we'll have a few champagnes by the time we get there. So like, you know, I hope that it's going to be fun. And she was like, I was worried about you guys for the meditation.
Just a little drunk meditation.
I was like, this could be hard for those ladies.
That's great.
Oh, so funny. So then Drew was talking about this, like, they were sort of talking about living their lives in public, you know, since a young age, and how one of the things is like this open door policy. So you can like engage in conversation with people like the ladies on the plane. And, you know, she was like, I really like that, you know, the walls coming down and you have this open door policy. And again, like we know that from having met her, is that she is very like generous and warm and welcoming. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So she was like, we'll get really deep really fast. So that was an interesting thing about their conversation. And yeah, they just had like a really nice conversation. It was very, you know, warm and friendly. And one of the things that Dannii said is that Drew really liked was that she said, I'm on the 5th floor, like meaning that she's in her 50s.
Oh,
And
Oh, that's cute.
yeah. She was like, oh, and I'm on the 5th floor. You're almost there. And Drew's like, did you say 5th floor? She's like, yeah, 5th floor. She's like, oh, that's going to stick forever.
I love that.
I was going to say, I guarantee we're going to hear her say that sometime soon on
Well,
our show.
I'm going to arrive on the 4th.
I'll be watching.
I'm going to arrive on the 4th floor soon, so I'm going to start saying that.
Yeah,
come on up for the 3rd, Anne. We'll see you up here.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting here. We'll
I'll see you guys there in a couple months on the 4th floor. That's really cute. I like that. I could totally see her
so they
using that.
Yeah. So they talked a bit about being in your 50s and how you're like ready to just be like, fuck it. We're in our 50s. Yeah.
Looking forward to that feeling.
And how you can like say no more easily and that kind of thing. And then finally, the last person she had on was Baker Boy. So this was the only person that I hadn't heard of before. So Baker Boy is an Indigenous Australian, I think, rapper, musician.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was funny. Oh, one thing at the end of the Dannii segment that I thought was really funny is like they were talking about this, the 50s and how and like saying no, being on the 5th floor, saying no, and just like knowing what you need more out of life. And Drew just like got zoned out. Like, so I was talking before about how she was so engaged and present with everybody. She started just like staring off into the distance.
What?
And Dannii was like, should I go now?
Oh my God. Was she just like having some sort of revelation?
I think so.
Internally?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So Dannii actually said to her, snap out of it. She was like, snap out of it. Should I go now? And Drew was like, and then she was like, oh, the opposite, and so yeah, she was like, and then when she was introducing Baker Boy, she was like, okay, I took my marination with Dannii, so I'm ready to go. That was like her marinating.
That little like,
but also like
zone out moment.
It was getting late. Like this whole event, it went for like 2.5 hours. Or like she was on stage for a long
So
time.
she was on stage for at least like 2 hours of that. And minus like the meditation and what the musician they had. Did Baker Boy also do music? Okay.
No, the only person who performed was Tones and I. They did have some music during the meditation, but once when Drew first came out on stage, she stayed on stage the whole time until the end. So yeah, it was like a lot for her. I'm sure she was exhausted. But anyway, she was like, okay, I'm ready to transition. And Baker Boy was like, he was really sweet. He was obviously very nervous. He didn't seem like he'd had media training. Like he didn't have sort of answers ready to go, I guess. But she was just doing such a great job of like being very warm to him and like prompting him. And he was, I just thought, like the least kind of comfortable person up there. But yeah, she drew on her research for that one more. She was like, so I understand you speak a lot of languages. And,
she's like, I got you.
Yes.
I'll get you through this.
Yeah. And so it was really sweet. And then, she was like, what do you think we learn from history? And like, because he's very like connected to the history of his people and that kind of thing. And then, he told some really like wonderful stories that she really sort of latched onto. And yeah, she's like, when I was researching your work, I found it was really important for you to like respect where you came from and brought all that stuff. But she never looked at notes for that or anything, by the way. She never was like, oh God, what did I say about him? And that was her last guest. And she's like, yeah, knew sort of what to say. So yeah.
See, Drew's one of us. She likes research too.
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
That's really cool though.
Yeah. But she was just so kind to him. And, like she got a few sort of stories out of him and she got there in the end, but it just it wasn't like as easy a conversation as the other ones. So they were talking about like how they can how can you connect to someone without words? And she was like, hug. Or I think he said or they sort of both said hug. And she was like, which, by the way, according to focus groups, I do too much.
It's like, see, focus groups, it's a good thing.
Yeah. And that was basically it. They sort of wrapped it up pretty quickly after that. So it was really cool. Like it was I had no idea what to expect. But it was like, I didn't expect that many people.
Yeah.
but it was really cool to basically sort of see her in talk show host mode
Yeah.
and to see that start to finish. And I hope you get to go, Ash, to see her show recorded, because I can imagine that it's similar to that. And I was like, those editors of her show have a hell of a job.
God. Yes.
Maybe Nancy is advising them.
I saw the LA version, but when they did that, it was literally just Cameron Diaz like hanging out with them. So it was never like a in-depth kind of interviewee thing. But when she was in producer mode, like they had to film a segment, or like I saw like this really, efficient businesswoman like getting stuff done. And it was really cool to witness firsthand.
Yeah, it was so cool. So thank you for having me on to talk about it.
Tess, thank you so much for being our correspondent from the Wanderlust event.
Yeah, I love that. Our Down Under correspondent.
And I'm so glad that you got to go and we had our representation, Droopy representation. Yay.
Totally. No, it was really cool. And I haven't even really seen much about the Brisbane event, which she did the next night. And I know that there were a couple of different guests there and stuff, but I did see her outfit. That's about all I've seen. If you find anything, share it with me, because I feel like it's been hard to find stuff. But now Instagram has this new AI search, and it's really hard to find stuff now for me. Like,
it's awful. No,
I just want to search for like what was posted in the last day, and there doesn't seem to be a way to do that now.
Can I just see what's recent on a hashtag?
Right.
Nope.
Right.
Cannot.
No.
But I'll hook you up. I got some stuff I saved last night.
Yeah. Thanks so much. It was great speaking with you.
Tess. It was great to see you. We love you. You're welcome back. Even if you don't go around Drew in her space again, you can come back.
Oh, that's so nice.
Feeling generous now.
just to talk about the weather and do some temperature.
Temperatures of Tess.
Perfect.
Thank you, Tess.
All right. We love you.
Bye. I love you.
Bye.
Bye.
So huge thanks to Tess for not only, she didn't go to the event for us, that was for herself, but she went to the event, she took notes, she thought about things, she remembered, she came back and she shared everything with us and with our listeners. Yep. So cool. Thank you, Tess. You are our number one Australian correspondent forever.
We hope we're not hurting anyone else's feelings, but Tess is, she's the queen.
She is a queen. She's the best.
She is. I like how you said the other day, speaking of Tess, that she really has like a similarity to Drew's great aunt, Ethel.
Yeah. I found some cool pictures on eBay that are currently for sale. And yeah, I was like, wow, I really see a resemblance to Tess in these. So that just kind of shows how like the family resemblance is there, it's like, something. I don't always look at Drew and see Ethel, but like Tess looks like both of them. So clearly
there's something. Also, I just love like if Tess is told again, she'd be like, actually, I look like Drew Barrymore's great aunt, Ethel Barrymore. Look it up.
Tess, you have your homework.
Yes, you do. All right. So I guess that wraps up this week's episode.
I guess so. I'm really excited about next week. I already decided for us what we're doing, and I already did all the research. I got carried away today. Once the ball starts rolling in my brain, it's hard to get it to stop. So
do you want to tease anything about it, or are you?
I teased it in our last episode. It has to do with something that's mentioned in the MTV movie special. So again, guys, go watch it and maybe you'll figure out what I've got cooking.
Take some guesses and let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know. In the meantime, thank you, of course, for tuning in, you guys. We love you, and we would appreciate if you could rate, review, subscribe. We'll read your review if you leave one on Apple Podcasts. And then be sure, like, we won't just read it in our minds. We'll read it on the show.
Like, for real. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, with your name and everything.
As long as you're nice.
That's true.
If you're not nice, we might still read it.
Yeah, we'll definitely read it, and we'll call you out for being a big old jerk. And then if you're not a big old jerk, follow us on Instagram at HowDoYouDrewPod and at Drewseum.
Mm-hmm. And while you're on the internet, visit our website at howdoyoudrew.com, hosted on our OG, thedrewseum.com. Sign up for our Patreon. Don't forget about our Patreon. And don't forget to send listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com or any of the other platforms. We're out there. We're listening. We're here for all the Drew stuff.
speaking of Patreon, I'm very excited to get into chapter 7. It's like short, but it is, packed with like, this is probably the one that made me the most angry. Not at Drew, of course, but at like just all the adults in her circle who failed her.
Yes.
And I'm definitely including Jade in that. But anyway,
so
if that sounds interesting to you, get on over to patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
And we'll definitely be releasing that before our next episode. So if you're hearing this episode and you want some more stuff, check out the Patreon. Let me see if I have a question to take us out. Question to take us out. I think I've already asked you your second favorite color. So let's see if I want to do. What was your favorite stuffed animal growing up?
Wow, this is so weird. So, like, I had a thing where I collected teddy bears for a little while, but the first thing that came to my head was I had a raccoon that I named Roxy Raccoon, and I don't remember where it came from or anything, but like it was one of those weird, I haven't thought about that in 30 years, and as soon as you asked me, it popped into my head. So that's my answer. Exciting.
I asked because I looked over and I saw like 3 little frog figures sitting by my lamp, and I was like, I like stuffed toys. But the thing that came to mind, even though I don't think it was like my favorite, was this toy that was like a white kitty cat that had a red ribbon around its neck and a little bell. And I remember it was given to me by like a family friend. And like, I think it was just in my bedroom when I was growing up. So like, that just came to mind.
Yeah, so anyway, it just reminds you of childhood.
You were collecting the teddy bears that were used in Drew Barrymore's 10th birthday. And anyway, everyone, thank you for listening. And we'll see you next Drew's Day.
Yay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you.
Thank you.